And we are back with one more edition of your USL Championship Texas podcast, the Striker Tejas. Full panel today. I love when we got everybody, guys. I truly miss when you guys are not here. And I'll start our good night, good day, whatever you're going to call, with the new hat from Edson Ochoa down south on the border. Man, I love your hat collection. I want to see when you're going to start repeating it, man. Good night, brother.
How's it going, Roberto? Jonathan, I remember this time. And Joe, of course. Uh, think I'm happy to be back for another week of talking USL, Texas USL soccer. And yeah, this time I'm repping Tigres Femenil. So I know they were in Austin this past week. So
Guys,
I thought it was.
it was cool, and it was so cool that you're talking about that. We were there, we were out there playing. They were playing against Austin Elite. We did some live shows from the stadium, from Round Rock Multipurpose, and I am so happy to tell you guys that was our most successful live ever. Was this? It's so good to see, women's soccer so strong, and the audience coming to us to search for that. I'm actually very very proud of what we did this weekend and looking forward for a lot of things. So thanks for doing that. I like what you did there, Edson. Very cool.
Yeah, of
Let's
course.
let's go now down I-35 here from Austin in San Antonio. Jonathan, how are you, brother?
Doing all right. Survived a crazy gauntlet of matches this weekend. First SAFC playing late, and then woke up early in the morning to see Jose Gallegos play all of like 2 minutes and then some stoppage time in his match over in Denmark. And then drove to a local watch party for Manchester City to watch that tight 2-2 draw. And that was all within like 13, 14 hours. So
That's good. That's a good way to do to spend your time over the weekend. I like that way. What about you out there on our far west of our beautiful state of Texas, from El Paso? Well, we forgot Jonathan's name. Should we forget Joe's name? No, no. Come on, Joe. Tell me what's going on out there, man.
Hey, how's it going, Roberto, Jonathan, Edson? It's a pleasure to be back for another episode of of the Striker Tejas. Just here ready to talk a little bit of Texas USL with you all. It was a solid weekend. Didn't do a whole lot. Obviously, on Saturday evening, I went out to downtown El Paso, Southwest University Park, to cover the Locomotive soccer match, their fifth soccer match of the year in USL play. Other than that, the entire weekend did a whole lot of nothing. I'm into golf a lot, so it was the Masters weekend. So majority of the weekend was just dedicated to sitting in front of the television and wishing how much I would, how wishing how much I would love to have a ticket to the Masters, which is the most impossible ticket for any sporting event, I think, in the entire world. So yeah, did a whole lot of that. But other than that, it was all good and excited to be back with you all.
Can I just
So
say, Roberto, that
yeah, of course.
so this weekend I was actually in San Antonio. Can I just say how hectic Fiesta is at the very last day, like during the parade? It is hard to go through downtown.
That's so cool. So cool that you did that. I wish I could have gone there, but like I said, we were producing the game here in Austin for the Tigres game. But that's cool. No, I've been in Texas for 9 years, and it is incredible how many different things and amazing things that this state can offer. We're truly a country by itself, right? We really are. I think in all culture and we can even say by soccer, right? How many teams do we have across the state on all divisions and women and men? So pretty cool. But let's go back to our USL championship. Um, what a way to get a first win uh, in El Paso, right? We've been talking about that whenever that team would gel, if it would gel, it would be very good. Was the game as good as the result, the 5-0 against Monterrey, Joe?
Yeah, no, definitely it was. Obviously, the Locomotives jumped out to a 1-0 lead, made it 2-0 by halftime. With in the last instances of the first half, one of the players from Monterey Bay wasn't able to. He received his second yellow card, leading to a red card, which led for the Locomotive to play with a one-man advantage for the entire second half. And obviously, they smelled blood in the water, and they didn't back off 1 inch. They went and tried to score as much as they could in the second half. They were able to score 3 more times in the second half. But I think the biggest thing here, more than the team winning 5-0, the most goals they've ever scored in a match, the biggest margin of victory that they've ever had in club history. More important than that, obviously, was the clean sheet that was obtained by the team. I think that was the biggest theme that was covered in the post-game conference. But one of the things that's really important here as far as team execution and what they did, their body of work on Saturday night, it wasn't attributed to the fact that they were playing one man up. To be honest with you, if that red card isn't given to the player from Monterey Bay, I think El Paso would have still won 3-4-0. Fact of the matter is they were different defensively. They didn't allow a single shot, I don't think, in the entire game. Definitely not in the first half.
But Joe, sorry to interrupt you, but I want to ask you this: do you think that it was an improvement on El Paso, or was a lack of quality on Monterrey, or was both?
No, I think leaning more towards it was an improvement on El Paso. One of the things that you got to take into consideration, fellas, is the fact that defensive line, who was on it today? It was Andrew Fox, Eder Borelli, Yuma, all players that have been inherited from that John Hutchinson inherited, players that have been with the Locomotive pretty much since their inception. While I know Yuma had a terrible game against San Diego Loyal, I think he was a whole lot better 1 week later. He improved significantly, and he talked a lot about that. He gave a lot of perspective, and he acknowledged a lot. He made reference to that game with San Diego Loyal, which is a piece I'm going to be writing and working on for later this week, so that people can go read it on the Striker Tejas, because he really did give a lot of perspective. But I think those pieces, Borelli, Fox, Yuma, and then with Harry Brockbank, that combination hadn't been used thus far this year, and I think that experience showed. And I think the improvement was significant. It wasn't so much the lack of an opponent.
Anytime that you have a back four that knows each other, it makes it so much easier, right? That's a fact. So good. So
you know what's interesting, Roberto, Jonathan, and Joe, is that last week we were debating what would be better for El Paso, getting a shutout even though it would be 0-0, or getting a win regardless of letting in 4. Well, they got both.
They got both.
They scored 5, and they got the shutout.
Yeah. I sent a message to Andrew, the GM of El Paso today or this week, saying, "Man, what a good weekend! Finally." He was of course very very happy from what they saw and very excited. So, but anyways, very 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 interesting. I think a good way. I think this El Paso of this weekend is the El Paso that Andrew told me on the beginning of the season that they wanted, right? A team that scores, that it is fun to watch. Now let's see if they can keep it up moving forward, and we'll talk about the next game, which is going to be a very interesting one in a few minutes. But let's go to flight to South California, in LA region, where San Antonio played Orange County there, Jonathan. Tell us about that revenge game that, you brought the 3 points. Were very important.
Yeah, San Antonio FC traveled out to face Orange County SC, opponent from the Western Conference Final last year. Same venue, Championship Soccer Stadium in Irvine. Came out with a 1-0 win. First half was really just Jordan Farr making some saves, and it's not that SAFC wasn't getting forward. It's just, I think that they were getting up into the attacking third and just couldn't find a way to get through that Orange County defense. And we know there are some really talented defenders back there. And in the second half, SAFC noticed that there were opportunities to sort of win the ball and get forward. And this is something Mitchell Tanner, who provided the assist on the lone goal, talked about post game. was trying to steal it off and then quickly moving it forward. He plays a center back, mind you, steals the ball, gets into the attacking third on the left side of the box, plays a cross in, and Elliot Collier, who is kind of off to the right of the goal, gets just enough on it to send it back across and in off the left post. So not exactly the prettiest goal, but it did the job and it gave SAFC the revenge that, even if it wasn't the main goal, Tainer definitely mentioned it in the post game interviews, and I'm sure all the players will feel vindicated after not being able to get the job done in November, but getting a little bit of revenge this time.
But if we think about the long run, right? And we always talked about, and we said this last week, the week before, and the week before. We're talking about 5 6 weeks to see what the teams are to get at the point that we are in the season, Jonathan, with just one bad result. It's a pretty good damn start for San Antonio.
It really is, and it's kind of a quiet one. Something I find interesting is SAFC has 4 wins this season, all by 1 goal. El Paso has 1 win this season by 5 goals. It's a couple weeks, I think 2 weeks from this weekend, where SAFC will host Monterey Bay as well. So maybe that would be a bit of a common ruler stick we can measure the teams against. But something that's, I think, been impressive for SAFC is being able to grind out some of these wins earlier this season, even if it's not pretty.
Well, there's going to be a common ground next weekend. They're playing each other, so I think that's going to be a fun one, and we're going to talk about that game in a few minutes once again. But the third and last game of the weekend, and interesting. Jonathan brought this up before we started recording. Last week we were talking about how Mark Lowry's decision had messed up El Paso and was messing up Indy, and then he comes in to the Valley and takes the 3 points out of RGV. Edson, I don't think you were really expecting that. Although you were a little bit, cautioned about the game last week. We were talking about that, but very disappointing, huh?
Definitely, they're definitely disappointing. I think overall the Toros, just continued the same way they had been playing at home, which is at moments they seem to be the better team. They seem to have more possession of the ball. They had opportunities on goal. Most of the shots, especially in the first half, they had, I think it were like 8 7 shots. Only one of them was on target, and that one was off a bad giveaway by the uh, the the defense, by Indy 11's defense, that was pretty much saved by Elliot Panico, Austin Bolt fans, if y'all remember him. But overall, I think in the second half, it was a lot more Indy oriented, the game, and just 2 shots on target. That's all Indy 11 needed from Stefan Pino to put us in an unfavorable situation. At the very end, the last couple of minutes, once again, the Toros seemed to kind of put the pressure to try to get back into the game. They were able to score 1 goal off of Frank Lopez, but it just wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough, and it's just the same thing from the constant, the lack of shooting accuracy from our strikers, and the lack of rotation, because there are no players. The depth isn't there for the Toros. And I asked Wilmer about it in the press conference. When can we expect some of these players that they announced, like uh Adolfo Hernandez or Suleimana, Nafiu Suleimana, and he said they're caught up, or they're behind on their immigration documents. So it's still waiting for them to see when all of their documents are going to go through, and then plus waiting for all those that are injured as well to come back. And so attacking wise, he looks and there's nothing. There are no options.
And not only
Edson,
that, it's, and you also have to remember that, I mean, once these 3 forwards that they're turning to, or that they signed, to help offensively. I mean, it's not like if they're going to come in and be ready to fire. That's still you're still going to
That's
get
also true.
you're also still going to get
There's a
several
time
you're going to get
to
several
melt.
weeks
Yeah.
of Wilmer telling you, well, they're getting into shape or
Well,
they're
let's
preparing.
let's talk about Wilmer. We got a couple of answers from his press conference, and it was interesting when Edson selected the audio for this. I thought he was going to get the part where he was complaining about the referees and everything, but no, I actually think this was even better than that. So let's hear some of Wilmer's responses, and we'll be back to discuss that.
When we have the roster complete, we don't have a complete roster right now. We're obviously we started late, so we started late. We're gonna be late. We're gonna be late for everything. Everything is gonna be later, but it is our situation, and we have to face. And we're not hiding. We're not lying. We started late. So right now, we don't have 3 forwards waiting for them. So hopefully we learn the lesson, but we're suffering. When you lose, you don't feel good. Hopefully, at one point we look back and we say, we started off suffering, but we recover. That's the plan. But in order for us to recover, we need to stop giving up those chances and those goals. And we need to make sure that, hopefully we bring the whole staff, we bring the whole roster, we bring all the players, and having all those players, we can recover and well and ready. We can face the way we are planning and having the possibilities to have players, at least 2 players per position, where they compete internally in order for them to make sure that, okay, if you're not doing well, I have someone for you, but right now we're not.
So very interesting, Edson. Guys, what he says there. My first impression, and I want to hear everybody here. I know Edson wants to hear everybody's opinion because
Y'all get your rant buttons ready for me. Okay.
yes, but I wanna say it, Joe.
Look, the first thing, the first thing that jumps out at me, I'm hearing him talking, I'm hearing him say these things, and I know, I'm assuming, Edson, that it's not an in-person post-game presser, it's via Zoom. Is that correct?
It was in person. Since I was not in person, it is both. So
Okay. So
yes.
so the one thing that when he gives up those opening comments, the very first thing that, even just watching this clip for the very first time, listening to what he said, my first question, I have 2 questions. Number 1, so who's responsible for you all starting late?
That's
And
it.
number
That's
2,
it.
why did you start late? Or
Yeah.
actually, it's the inverse. Why did you start late, and who's
And who's,
responsible for that?
but I think that's the part that pops up to me on his comments, Joe, is the fact that he is the one responsible for it. RGV Toros is a team that doesn't have a president at this point. He's the technical director. He responds directly to the president, as we understand, unless there's something different. And if there is, I want the Toros to let us know. But it is our understanding. It's clear to us that he has independence on what he runs. The owner doesn't get involved on the day-to-day decisions of the team, so we know it's his decision. And I think that was missing on his response. If he says that it's all those problems, it almost sounds like there's somebody else that he's blaming, and at the end it's himself, right?
Right. I
So
mean, and that's
that's what caught
exactly
my
the answer
attention.
that I would want. I would want that answer on record. That way, just to have
That's it.
it.
So say, hey, I made a decision because of this. We knew that this was going to be a challenge, and that's it. But anyways, that's my impression. Jonathan, what's your thought on Wilmer?
Yeah, let me go ahead and get my ideas in before Edson's 30-minute rant. Um, to echo Joe, yeah, I think you do definitely have to ask who's responsible for this. Why is this happening? Um, Having these issues with players not being able to join the team because of immigration issues, maybe you should have held the press release to announce them then, because then you kind of build up this expectation and it's fallen flat. And I seem to recall there might have been a player or two that they had this problem with last year. And so it's funny when he talks about hopefully we learned our lesson. Didn't you already have this lesson last year? Did you not learn it?
Thank you.
Um,
That's
and
it. It's not an expansion team, right?
yeah,
It's not an expansion team.
and second of all, this discussion of we're short players on the attacking end. So is SAFC. They've got 4 wins out of 5 matches. They, a couple matches ago, were having to play a 17-year-old, had to put him on in the second half because that's how short-handed they were. And yet they're getting these wins. And you know what part of it is? I think it's the defense. I mean, I looked at the highlights for the RGV indie game, and I mean, it's not that soft, but you could have prevented those goals. Stick a foot in, keep those balls from going through. Head that first ball over the defense out. What's the defense doing to try and prevent these?
And
I
he
mean,
and he
this,
mentioned he called the team naive. He said we are still very naive defensively.
yeah,
Because he felt that, and even Juan David Cabezas mentioned that they need to be better with stopping the through balls, and that has been their problem so far this season defensively.
yeah. I mean, it definitely shows. SAFC didn't necessarily. I mean, against RGV, they were able to get some good takeaways. That was part of the catalyst for SAFC's goals there. But yeah, it's way too easy to get through that RGV defense. I mean, this past weekend, SAFC and the Toros both scored a single goal, except SAFC kept a clean sheet. And
Yeah.
yeah, it took some
And
heroics from Jordan
so
Farr.
so that's the same question that I made to you last week, and then you can respond that with your comments on Wilmer. Are we seeing more of the same from last year? Is this the totals that we're going to see all year long?
I have a feeling that yes, I think we're gonna be seeing the Toros with the same defensive misattentions and the same defensive mistakes that we saw last season. They were lucky, and I'll get to talk about it. I'll talk about it right now. Wilmer says, "Okay, we're late," and y'all mentioned it already. Who's responsible for controlling this and creating this roster? Wilmer, you're the one responsible. Don't try to pin the blame on somebody else, or try to run
Or
around the
leave it up
question.
in the air. He
Yeah,
left he left
this
it there.
is
He didn't blame
this is
anybody, right?
your
But
responsibility, Wilmer.
yeah,
You know, it seems like he thought, the way I see it is that, oh, it worked for me last season. It's almost like my college career, where it's like I study until the end, I do my homework until the very end, and I still manage to pass, right? And for him, that for Wilmer, that was
C's
last
get
season.
degrees, baby.
No, and maybe a B because they made it to the playoffs. And so I'm guessing he thought, oh, it doesn't matter if I do it early or if I start getting players late, I can pretty much be able to go to the playoffs. Whoa,
but
what's the
if
difference? You know what the difference is, Roberto?
mm,
Last year, you had experienced players like Rodrigo Lopez, like Elvis Samo. Now you're relying on a 17-year-old academy player. You're relying on a bunch of young kids. And I'm not saying they're bad players, but they are not at the level as Rodrigo Lopez and others. And the ones you do have, they're injured. Whose problem is that? Definitely, there's either something wrong with the installations at HEB Park,
which
or
is
there's
not. We
something
know
else,
it's not.
or
We know
there's
that
something else.
RGV. I visited most of the USL Championship structure, and RGV has one of the best ones in the whole country. Say it, Joe.
Another thing that's a good point that you bring up there. Last year he got away with it. This year, maybe not so much. One of the things that played to pretty much every team's favor last year that helped with the parity of the standings in the league one thing that we don't mention that you don't have the luxury of this year is the fact that you played every team so much last season. So it was going to even itself out one way or another. You played all of the
That's true.
Texas teams.
You
A
have the
lot of
chance to recover that.
exactly.
You were
It's
making
hard in
points and
soccer
taking points
to
away
beat a
from somebody.
team
Yes.
3, 4, 5 times in a row.
Yes, I
Whereas
agree.
opposed
That's
here,
true.
there's a lot more parity. You're only playing everybody twice, so you don't know what's coming at you from a technical standpoint. And if you have any weaknesses or any flaws or any weak points in what your roster is made up of, you're going to be exposed.
Exactly.
I
And I
agree.
think
I agree.
somebody mentioned it right now about, well, we learned from hopefully we learn from our mistakes. Well,
Doesn't look like.
insanity is trying to do the same thing and expecting, what is it, expecting different results.
Yeah.
So yeah. You can't expect different results doing the same thing. Yeah, that's a fact, right? But all right. So next weekend, RGV flies to New York. Another long trip. They were just in the Northeast a week ago for the Open Cup. Now they go out there again to play New York Red Bulls too. Uh, I'm even scared to ask you, what do you think about what's going to happen in that game?
I don't know. I mean, I thought that it was going to be. I thought that it was going to be at least decent, like simple for RGV to get some points against what was at that point one of the worst teams in the
Well,
USL Championship. With
in New
Indiana
York,
and
it still is also, right? I think that's if there is a silver lining here is the fact that they're playing in New York, which is
Yeah,
still
but
doing
guess
a
what?
very bad year. But
Yeah, but guess what, Roberto? Last season, I thought the same thing about Loudoun United, and they came and squeaked the draw here at HB
yeah,
Park. So we
yeah.
don't know about this team how they're gonna respond against what is supposed to be simpler opponents on paper, and especially now with all of these issues that they're having with the roster. Pardon me for being a little bit pessimistic. If there are any RGB fans that are listening, which I know they are, to this podcast, forgive me for being pessimistic at this point. But what has the team showed?
But
Not
it's
much.
what you have, right? It's what you have. All right, so that's going to be one of the games, and we got to do the predictions. We I'm looking forward to talk about the predictions of last week for obvious reasons, but for this week, so we got New York playing RGV, and then we got the first official Copa Tejas derby, right? The first one didn't count, was an extra one, right? Didn't count for the Copa Tejas title. We have the first one now. San Antonio FC hosting El Paso. Oh my God, what a great moment to have this game, right? With El Paso coming from such a wonderful result. Now we got SAFC with all the wins and the position in the table. Who wants to start there, Joe or Jonathan?
Home team first.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, it is going to be very interesting. Like I mentioned earlier, SAFC has 4 wins by 1 goal apiece. El Paso has the 1 win by 5 goals. So definitely very different approaches. And if you look at the scores in SAFC's matches, doesn't tend to be high scoring. I don't think either SAFC or their opponents have ever scored more than 2 goals this season. Whereas you've seen the exact opposite with all of El Paso's games, basically. Um, it's going to be really interesting also to see sort of what teams are selected because El Paso, like we said last week, out of the Open Cup, don't have to worry about another game for another week. And SAFC, I don't know how much we want to get into this now, but 4 days after this Copa Tejas match, they face another team from Texas, Austin FC. And without saying too much, it's a matchup that they're kind of looking forward to.
Yeah.
So I wonder if maybe Marcina might tweak things a bit, maybe keep a few of his bigger cannons in reserve for that match on Wednesday. But at the same time, they want to win every match if they can.
Yeah.
And
But it's the Austin game is a final, right? It's we could even say the game of the century maybe for San Antonio in so many ways. I think if they come with a victory out of that game, I think it's going to be historic for
a
the I
number of
35
reasons.
derby for a number of reasons. Yeah, we could do a whole podcast one day, and maybe we should to talk about this whole rivalry and everything that happened with the promises from MLS to San Antonio and how Austin ended up getting in. And but anyways, I don't think it's the moment now, but it is a very important game for them. But might be a more important game for the fans and for the maybe even for the high executives of San Antonio. Maybe not for Marcina. For Marcina, maybe it is just another Open Cup game. We don't know. Joe, what do you think about this game over the weekend?
No, absolutely. Very exciting. An opportunity for El Paso to make it 2 games in a row, 2 victories in a row. Just want to add on to what Jonathan said with regards to the teams coming in here. As far as El Paso scoring, one of the things that you have to look at is just simply, the most interesting statistic for El Paso, without a doubt, has to be their goals in favor and their goals allowed. Their difference is 0, because they've scored 13 times and they've been scored on 13 times. So,
Only five games, right?
I don't.
5 games. 5 games.
No,
It's
and no, yeah, in the
easy.
5 games of the USL Championship season, actually, it's 17 if full disclosure or self correction,
If
if you
we
will.
use the Open Cup,
It's 17 if you count the U.S. Open Cup game. 17
yeah,
against and 13 in favor.
yeah,
But
yeah.
no, the thing is for USL purposes, 13 goals in favor, 13 goals against. This El Paso team is a team that it's second in its goals scored so far this season in the entire USL Championship. But it's going to be a question. Another thing that's going to be very interested is for all intents and purposes, San Antonio has an advantage that they've seen El Paso and seen a good variety of their players this season
They seen the
under the
good and the
command of John
bad.
Hutchinson. You got to remember that preseason game where it was nothing but academy players for San Antonio FC. So there might be something there as far as the advantage goes for San Antonio. But I think at the end of the day, it's going to end up like many of these games have been between all of the Texas teams, whether it's San Antonio and El Paso RGVFC, San Antonio RGVFC. They always end up being very, very close games, and definitely it's one team that's up high in the table in the division in San Antonio FC against one team that's still in the bottom part of the table in El Paso Locomotive FC. But I don't think that really matters much in this one. I think it's going to be a very, very excited game, and hopefully it's a great atmosphere out in Toyota Field this Saturday night.
Oh, I have no doubts that the atmosphere is going to be there. The Crocketeers has this amazing pregame tailgate that they have it every game, but there's some specific games that they put a little bit more effort to make it even better, and this is one of those. So we're going to be there no matter what. We're having we're doing some logistic here to do our pregame show and our postgame show. We still have to finalize the authorization with San Antonio for us to make that happen. We're trying to fly Joe from El Paso to San Antonio so we can all be together there, and hopefully Edson can find somebody to take care of his remodeling of his house so he can try to be with us in San Antonio also. But no matter what, we're going to be all there, supporting Copa Tejas. Um, Everybody knows how passionate the Striker Texas is for the Copa Tejas, for the people that work behind that, the supporters group, the grassroots concept behind that, and we're always going to be supporting that. So we're going to be there with all our structure, hopefully doing our live shows pregame and postgame from there. But let's go to the predictions. Since I got it right, I kept the optimistic mindset last week, and I got the 6 points. I had 6 points out of the 9 points possible for the Texas teams in USL Championship. With having a derby this weekend, we can only get 6 points max, right? There's a little bit more combinations, but I'll start since I got it right the first time. I'll start, no problem. You guys can follow me if you want. If you want to be happy in your lives, you can do that. I'll go with 4 points. I think we got a winner at in the derby. I think the derby we leave the derby with a winner, and I think RGV is going to come back with a point from the Northeast. So that's my prediction. Four for me. Joe.
I agree right there with you. I think this is going to be a derby that's going to have a winner Saturday in San Antonio. And with regards to RGFC, the Toros traveling over to the East Coast up to fight or to face a Red Bulls 2 team. I want to ask Edson. I mean, I think this would be a good reset for the Toros to travel very, very far on a very, very tough road trip just because of the logistics and the difference to just kind of reset, look good, have the possibility to win, but definitely a tie would be just, a more than inadequate result for the Toros this weekend. So I'm going to have to agree with you. I try to be different, but no, 4 points it is.
All right, so 4 points for Joe. I'm gonna let Jonathan be the last one because he's the only one that has not got one right yet this year, and I'll do that. Joe got one, I got one, and Edson got one. So Edson, what is your prediction for this weekend? No, you're muted. You're muted. You can't do 1 point. No, you can't do 1 point because if there's a tie on
2 points.
yeah, if there's a
Points.
tie, so you think it's
A
going to be a
draw in the
tie?
derby.
Draw in the derby. Yeah.
0 points for RGV.
All right, so 2 points for Edson there.
No, then you can do 1 point. You can do 1 point, Roberto, because if the derby draws, that's 1 point, and if he says RGV is going to lose, it's 0. So you can
1
do
point.
No, it's 1 point for both
SAFC
sides.
and El
If
Paso.
there's a draw, they both get a point.
1 + 1 = 2, Joe.
Yes, thank you. I forgot about that. Hey, for the record, I'm terrible at math.
No, for the record, we're not gonna cut this off. We're gonna leave this in just so we can make fun of them later on. Jonathan, tell me what is your prediction?
3 points, and based on the matches we've got, there's only one explanation as to how we get there. We have a winner in the derby, and RGV goes and comes back empty-handed.
That's it. All right. So it's looking good. This is a fun game to play. I invite people to that are listening to us send your predictions also for the coming weeks and play this game with us. I'm having fun doing this. Hope everybody is also. Anyways, remember, support local soccer, support the Striker Texas, support the Derby, Copa Tejas. Hopefully, we're going to be out there this weekend with the shows. I see. Joe, do you want to say anything before we go?
No, nothing, man. Just looking forward to excellent games this weekend. With the whole, I think the highlight of tonight's show was discussing what the head coach for the Toros said, and very much interested to see, when I think the fan base. Edson, just real quick, just a couple of seconds. What's the Twitter sphere in Toros land like? What's the crowd thinking, especially after his post game comments?
The problem is that outside of the Spanish clip that I posted, nobody has ever posted anything about his comments. But it's mostly been right now. I've had a lot of people reach out to me and say that they're kind of like worried and they're really double thinking going back to another Toros game at the stadium. So that's how dire the situation is when it comes to some
sad.
fans.
That's sad. Mm-hmm. I think building up soccer in the state of Texas and USL Championship has to be bigger than any specific results or any specific coaches. But I understand. I understand. It has to be fun. It's entertainment, right?
Yeah.
People want to do other stuff.
But you know what, Roberto? I think this is why I appreciate the work that we all do, for the USL, us as the Striker Texas, because finally we have a media that keeps these people, coaches, GMs, presidents, accountable, especially here at RGV. At RGV, it used to be where they could do whatever they want. Nobody cared. Nobody covered it. And now it's like, now we have a platform where we're keeping whatever they say, whatever they do, their actions on and off the field. We keep them accountable into making sure that they do right by the club and the fans.
That's it. The Striker Texas came here. I always say that we're here. Our mission is to develop soccer in the state of Texas, and if making this sport better is being critical of the things that are being done, we're going to do that, right? So hopefully we always have more good news than bad news, but sometimes the bad news are going to be out there, and we're going to have to report on them, right? So that's it. Once again, Our time is up here. I don't want to take too much of everybody's time, but let's see how the repercussion is going to be out of this podcast with Wilmer Awards. We'll touch base about this next week, and hopefully we have an amazing Copa Tejas game in San Antonio this weekend. I'm really looking forward to be back in San Antonio, Toyota Field. If you're in Texas, Central Texas, make the effort to go to the game, buy a ticket, support the teams, and if you are there at the Crocketeers tailgate, come over, say hello, let's have a beer together. So this is the Striker Tejas, a USL Championship podcast for the Striker Texas. Thank you very much, and see you next week.